guys, happy Monday. So you probably noticed I'm in a different location. I'm trying it out. I mean, the sun was really out and I thought, why not change up the space? It doesn't really matter. We'll see how it goes. So in regards to math, as you know, I kind of mentioned yesterday that we've sort of done half of the unit. So we are actually done half of the unit. So 2 weeks worth of work done. We're moving on to the second half of the unit. So already we've covered how to collect information, understanding if it's first-hand, second-hand data, collecting data at home, we looked at that, and we did single bar graphs, double bar graphs, how to make a double bar graph, and then we said how to read a graph. Now we're kind of shifting gears. It's still related to collecting information, understanding information, but in a different way, and in regards to probability. And probability just means how likely is the likelihood of something happening. Anything. The likelihood of Miss Mavish sitting here recording a video for you every week is very, 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 very likely, right? Right? I'm going to teach. So it's talking about that. That's what probability is what are the chances something's going to happen? But before we can start going deeper into this unit, we need to know the language of probability. There are certain words and terminology you need to understand what they mean before you go on to the unit, right? If you don't know what these 5 or 6 words mean, you're not going to understand the rest of the unit. And they're words that you've heard and probably already know, but we need to make sure we know them before we move on. So all you need today is your math notebook, a pencil, a highlighter as always, and that's it. You will need your math textbook after this because you do have one textbook question to answer. It's very easy, just one math textbook question, but that's a little bit later, but you can go grab it now if you want to. So we need your date, your title, which is language of probability, and then our I can statement is I can use words to describe the likelihood, and that's a very important word, and I'll talk about that in a moment, the likelihood of an event. Okay, please write that down and highlight it. And that's very, very important. Let's discuss that for a moment before we move on and look at what the words are. So the I can statement is I can use words to describe the likelihood of an event. So first, 2 very important words there is likelihood and then the event. So likelihood, like I just said a moment ago, is just the chances. What are the chances this is going to happen, right? What are the chances it's going to rain today? What are the chances that we're still going to be in lockdown tonight, right? What are the chances of something? An event is just anything. It could be any event. And we're not talking about an actual function event. We're just talking about something. Obviously, I'm not going to write a likelihood of something happening. Obviously, a much more professional word for that is event, right? The likelihood of me stepping out of my home to go get groceries today, the likelihood of me seeing one of my students face to face, right? That's probably very, very low. So it's just any event, anything happening. That's what I mean when I say event. It's not an actual event, it's just something, right? So that's what it is. There are 5 very, very important terms we need to know. Let's go through them. And they're basically in 2 groups. The first group is 3 words, and then the second group is 2 words. So let's look at them. Let's get this one out. So, vocabulary. So this is sort of like your mini dictionary for math. Vocabulary. Okay, and I'll number them. So, or maybe I won't number them. So I've got, first one, impossible. Right? If I say something is impossible, you probably already know that's an event that will never happen, right? Something that will never happen. It just cannot happen. So, an event that cannot or can't happen. So you can highlight that. I wrote it in red, you can highlight that. So impossible, an event or something that is impossible would be an event that cannot happen. It will never, never happen. An example of that, so something that can never happen would be like Miss Mavish being able to fly. Me flowers talking, animals talking to us, right? It's not, I don't want you to think that, oh, the chances of it snowing in Abu Dhabi or raining in Abu Dhabi today are it's impossible. No, things that are just definite, that does not matter what you think or it will just not happen. So like me flying or me being able to read your mind, or like I'll say flowers talking. That is an example of an event that is impossible. It will never ever happen, right? In our life, humanly possible, it is not possible. So it is impossible. So the first word, impossible, an event that cannot happen, so will never happen. Example is flowers talking. Okay? Pause the video, copy this down. I'm going to erase it and I'm going to add to this. We're going to build our vocabulary. So that's number one. I'll actually number them. 1. Okay, because I want number 1, 2, and 3 are kind of a group, and number 4 and number 5 are a group. Okay, so pause, copy, and then I can erase. Okay, let's look at number 2 and number 3 of the first group. So number 2, and I'll write number 1 just so I can talk about it. Okay, you're done with number 1. Okay, number 2 is possible. Okay, something that is possible, that means that is an event that can happen, right? It can happen. Not it will happen, but it can happen. So something that can happen, it's possible, right? It may not happen, right? It doesn't say it's certain, it's not for sure. It's possible, meaning it may happen, it may not happen. Think of it kind of like a maybe, right? It's an easy way, maybe I can even put in brackets over here maybe. It's like a maybe, because we all know what maybe is, right? It's like a maybe, and impossible would be like a no, right? So maybe would be like, am I going to read a book today? Yeah, so I love reading books. I usually read a book, parts of a book, maybe every day or almost every day. So it's very possible. Yeah, it's very possible that Miss Mavish will read a book. But maybe I'll get really busy in the day and something else happens. It's actually my sister's birthday, the day I'm recording this. So maybe I'll get busy with that. So maybe I don't end up reading a book. So, which is fine because I didn't say it was for sure. I just said it's possible, right? It's possible I could read a book. It's possible that you might go outside for just a quick walk, maybe a 5-minute walk. I know some of you I talk to my kids anyways, I know some of you go for walks sometimes just around your neighborhood and come back home. So that's also possible, right? It's possible that you will have sambusas for iftar today, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe you have them every day, I don't know, but maybe you have them every once in a while. So maybe it's possible. Maybe it will happen, but maybe it won't, okay? That's what possible means. And I'll write that and I'll write an example. So you can say example, eating, and I'll just make, so eating, I don't know if everyone knows what sambusas are. I'm assuming everyone knows. I can just say maybe eating a fruit today, right? Hopefully you are, but it's very possible that you will be having a fruit today, okay? Next, which is the third one, which is part of the group number 1, is certain. Okay, if something is certain, that means it's an event that will definitely happen. In red, so you can highlight it. Definitely happen. So there is no doubt about it. It will definitely happen no matter what happens. Doesn't matter if this happens years from now, it will always happen. So for example, that my birthday will always be on September 21st, that is certain. It's never going to change. That your birthday is always going to be on your birthday is certain. It will never change. The fact that January comes after December, that is certain. That June comes before July, that is certain, right? There are 4 seasons in Canada, that's certain. Things that are for sure happening, okay? So we can say that. So an example, so we can write that, right? Because we understand month. Month after June is July. So there's no argument. Think of this. With certain, anything that's certain, no one can argue it. If there's a little bit of doubt, that means then it's possible. But certain, it's everyone cannot deny it. So there's no one that's going to argue that June doesn't come before July. That we know, everyone knows that July comes after June. That is certain. Okay? Now, and the reason I said this is a group of 3, so I said these 3 are sort of like a group, right? Because one is no, so impossible, think of it like an easy way of thinking of no. Possible is sort of like thinking of it as maybe, and then certain is sort of thinking of it like yes, like it's for sure. That's why I kind of grouped it. Yes, maybe, no. That's group number 1 of vocabulary words, okay? Impossible, which just means nope, never. Possible, which means yeah, maybe. It's like the chances are there. Certain, for sure going to happen. Okay, copy that down, pause the video, and then we're going to move on to the last 2 vocabulary words. Okay, so that's one group. And you don't have to think of it as a group. I group them off just as a way for you to memorize them or understand them. Right? So yes, no, maybe. That's a group of 3. So we understand that. Okay. Number 4. I'm going to use a different color. Let me use red now. Number 4 and number 5 are kind of together. They're a small little pair. Probable. So I know for sure you've heard of impossible, certain, and possible. Next to, you may or may not have heard of them. It's probable and improbable. Probable. Okay, so not possible, probable. So probable is an event that is likely to occur, to happen. It's likely to happen. So what I mean by that is something that is probable. So if you think of the other groups, we had possible, impossible, certain. So look at, obviously it's not certain, and it's obviously not impossible. So it's in the group of possible, right? Probable is close to probable, but you're just saying it's likely. It's kind of like possible. You can say it's sort of like a matching. Possible and probable are similar, right? That means an event that is likely to happen, right? Very likely to happen. So again, me reading a book tonight is very likely. Maybe you going to the mall now that the fact the malls are open is likely, right? So it's not certain, it's not impossible, it's probable. So, and I know you're probably thinking, well, possible was very similar. You're right. Probable is sort of a synonym for probable, and I'll write that down in a moment, is possible. Possible, probable are very similar. They mean pretty much the same thing. If I said it's possible I'm going to the mall, I can equally say it's probable that I will go to the mall today. They're synonyms, okay? So that an example I'll say is going to the mall. And maybe it's not highly probable, right? Maybe because, your parents still want you to stay very safe. You're not going to go to the mall today. You're probably thinking, no, Miss Lavish, I'm never going to go to the mall until this whole thing is over. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So maybe for you it's very, very less probable. So that means very unlikely, but it's not impossible, right? Maybe something comes up and your parent says, we have to go to the mall, we need something, we have to go pick it up, and you have to go. Something like that, right? But it could be highly probable or less probable, but the idea is that it's kind of in that middle section, right? It's not a yes and it's not a no, it's kind of still in that middle range. That's probable. Okay? And then number 5 is just the opposite, or kind of like an opposite, improbable, right? So if you know probable, you know what the opposite would be. So an event that is unlikely, so it's less, right? It's at the bottom of the range. Improbable, so an event that is unlikely to occur. Okay? So an example would be, so something improbable, but that means it's not, don't think it's impossible. It may still happen, but the chances are very low, right? So for example, for it to rain today, it's beautiful outside. I'm looking outside my window right now. It's very beautiful. So it's very improbable. It's very unlikely, but at the end of the day, I'm not God, right? We don't know. It could happen. So that's why I'm saying it's improbable. I could say it's very, very improbable, which means it's very unlikely, but there's always that 1 or 2% that maybe it might rain, right? So improbable just means very less likely. So I would say it's, I would say it will rain today. Okay? So think of these sort of like in the middle ranges. So we've got impossible, which means it will never happen. And then we have, on the other side, we have certain, that it will for sure happen. And in that middle gray area, we have probable, which is something that's likely to happen. Possible, right? The synonym for this now, and I'll even put it in a bracket. Right? Possible and probable are pretty much the same thing. And improbable, which means unlikely. It may still happen, but very unlikely. Okay? So there's 5 words. Terms, vocabulary words you have to understand. Possible, impossible, possible, certain, probable, and improbable. You need to know what all of those mean. So today's math textbook question, I want you to, and all of it is just you getting used to and practicing these questions. These terminologies. So it's on page, I wrote it down, 274, oops, not 247, 274, number 1. Okay, I've given you multiple different situations, events, as I say, and you need to decide, is it probable, is it impossible, is it certain? Okay, so just look at all the definitions, look at what they mean, look at our examples, we have an example for each one, and ask yourself, how likely is it happening? Okay, and remember, if I'm saying it's impossible, that means it cannot happen at all. Okay, not everyone would say that. And same thing with certain, that means it's for sure going to happen, right? Not, so you saying that it's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow, well, we can't, what does beautiful mean, right? Maybe to me, rain, right? But you saying that it's going to be sunny, that's certain, right? It's probably going to be certain because we're in the desert. It is usually very sunny. But again, some people might say, well, that's kind of possible. Right, so think of it that way. Think of things that are absolutely, like you cannot change it, it will for sure happen, or impossible means like you cannot change it, it will for sure not happen. Okay, so try go at these, I don't know how many there are, there's like part A, B, C, D, I don't know, but it's just the one question. I'll finish that up. If you have any questions, message me or your teachers, and then tomorrow we can go on to working on these words, these terminologies, and looking at spinners and we'll do some games with spinners and all that, okay? So have fun, let me know, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.